All right, well, good morning. Hope everyone's ready to rock and roll today. I got a lot of cool information to share with you. And so we're going to be going over a lot of different things, but I think we kind of have to start off talking about the elephant in the room. So what do you think the elephant in the room is for real estate here lately? What's it, what's a buzz on the internet? What's everyone talking about in the real estate space?
With buyers.
Well, with the NAR settlement, right?
Yes.
So, the NAR settlement has really caused a lot of confusion, angst. Now, and we've been talking about it. And if you don't watch our real estate backstory every Monday morning, we do talk about it. We have talked about it for several weeks on there. But I couldn't go through a sales meeting, and this is our first sales meeting since the NAR settlement was proposed. And so I want to kind of throw out there really kind of what's going on. I want to talk about the lawsuit. I want to talk or about the settlement. I want to talk about the impacts that it has, the potential impacts that it has, and then how to really position ourselves to be really successful. And so, NAR reached that $418 million settlement out there. And then immediately, what did the news do? Well, they jumped on it, and then who'd they make the bad guys, though? Us. They made us the bad guys, right? And so all these news organizations all jumped out, that we've agreed to finally slash prices, that somehow we control pricing, and that now all of a sudden the 6% commission is negotiable. There's this massive change going on in the real estate industry, and a lot of folks inside our industry really got wound up, bent out of shape, and it has caused a lot of angst for a lot of people. And so I want to talk about really what's what in here. And so this is kind of like the basis of the settlement kind of thing. And they agreed to several changes as far as industry standards out there. And so first of all, they got all liability. So if you are a realtor, you are covered under this. There's a lot of brokerages got covered, and all realtors got covered. There's a lot of firms that didn't get covered, kind of thing, and they had to do their own separate lawsuit or their own separate settlement. But a lot of your big firms, they settled as well. And some people have said, well, why did they settle? So do you know why did the NAR settle? Well, first of all, this is a lawsuit that was in Missouri. And in Missouri, the rules are different than they are in Georgia. Now, here in Georgia, have we always been able to offer zero buyer's agent co-op? Yeah. For as long as I can remember, a seller could offer no co-op. How about in Missouri? In Missouri, if you paid a listing agent, you had to pay an equal amount for the buyer's agent as well. So it was forcing sellers to pay. Even if they didn't want to, they were forced to do it. So can I see why this settlement, why they decided to settle? Because in all essence, the rules in those states, or in that state and a few other states, said that you had to. Now, Georgia, believe it or not, Georgia's pretty cutting edge. We're ahead of the game on a lot of things. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But that's why they decided to settle. And so a couple of things that they decided is that now in the MLS, we can't share co-op amounts, like what a seller's willing to pay for a co-op commission cannot be shared. That little box or that category in the MLS can't be there. All MLS participants, meaning all realtors kind of thing, must get into a written agreement with their buyers prior to showing. And that's going to be a big change. NAR continues to deny wrongdoing. All this stuff is going to go into effect sometime in mid-July. So how long we got to go still? Like 3 months. So this is nothing but even though nothing is going into effect right now, are people talking about this? Yes. And do we want to wait until mid-July to start altering how we choose to do real estate, or would we start? Does it make sense to start adopting these policies and these kind of things sooner than later, kind of thing? It really does. So let's talk about what this means for us going forward. So first thing is a written buyer brokerage agreement must be signed prior to showing a property. This is a very different one, folks. We're gonna have to start treating our buyers like sellers. And so with the written buyer brokerage agreement, you cannot have variable or open commission amounts. You can't say, I'll take whatever the seller's offering. You can't say depends. You can't say zero. Matter of fact, you cannot offer your services for free. If you offer your services for free, guess what you can make in commission?
No.
Zero. Okay. So if you offer your services for nothing, that is all you can take. So do we have to start putting buyer brokerage agreements as part of our initial meetings with our clients? Absolutely. The other thing is whatever you agree to between you and your buyer, what you and your buyer agree to as far as like what your compensation is, that's the most you can take. So if, for example, you and the buyer sit down and you negotiate a 2.5% commission, but then you end up finding a property and that seller is offering a 3% commission, how much can you make? 2.5, because that's what your agreement says, right? So you can offer 2.5. Now, one of the other big changes is that there's no offer of buyer broker compensation in the MLS. Now, the sellers can still offer compensation. And do we think, and are we expecting the sellers to still offer compensation? Yes, and I'm going to go through why. We're going to definitely talk about that. We can also ask for it as part of the contract. In addition to that, we can request it prior to showing. And it just becomes, it's one of those things that now becomes a negotiation that we do. So it just can't be listed, that box where you could go in and search and see what the commission offered is. It's not going to be there anymore. By the way, if you guys want any of these slides, you can have them. So we send these out to the branch managers afterwards. Hit up your branch manager and they'll be glad to give you these slides. So like everything here is for you guys. So yes, ma'am.
So you're saying it won't be listed in that little spot. And before, and forgive me if I missed this, but before we were saying that it could be listed.
Well, I'm going to get there.
Oh, okay.
I promise. So yeah.
And then also I read that if this doesn't count for FMLS.
Well, we're going to get there too.
Oh.
All right. So you're ahead of me, but I'm getting there. I was going to follow my plan here. We also, yes, ma'am.
Okay, it has to be something in that box, otherwise we're saying we pay zero.
No, this is in the MLS. It can't be listed in the MLS. There has to be something in the box when we do the buyer brokerage agreement. Yes, we'll talk about that in just a second here. So we cannot alter or deny compensation to someone that is not inside our MLS. Sometimes this is another rule change. Like, for example, sometimes we had some brokers down in Savannah that said, if the agent is not a member of Golden Isles MLS, then commission will be cut to 1% or something like that. You can't do that. But now all of these changes are not terrible. And a matter of fact, a lot of these I'm welcoming. Does that sound weird?
No.
I hope it doesn't, because like one thing that's kind of, I want to kind of go through why I'm saying that. There's so many people that have suddenly felt like the sky is falling dealing with this issue, and I don't feel that way at all. And there's some things going on, and so this is from the most recent NAR polls, all the buyers and sellers from a previous year, and gets all their gathers a lot of information from them. And so the one that just came out, did your agent get a disclosure statement signed? 25% of us did in the very beginning, 22% when the contract was written. 53% either no, don't know, or at some time. So are we doing a real good job of communicating and disclosing who we represent? And when it comes to a written agreement, do we have a written arrangement? 41% say yes, 17% say they have an oral one. And in Georgia, there is nothing oral, right? 26% no, 16% say don't know. And then who gets paid, right? How does a real estate agent get paid? And 52% of our folks said, well, the seller pays. Some say the buyer and seller. Some say the buyer only pays. And I understand it can be confusing, right? But are we doing, when you look at this, can you say that we're doing a great job on transparency? No. But how about moving forward when all of our buyers have to have a buyer brokerage agreement before we can open a door? Is that gonna put us in a position where we have much more transparency? It absolutely will. Now, talking about what you were just asking me about. And so when it comes to what's being listed in the MLS, right now, as of the last conversation we have from Georgia MLS, Georgia MLS is planning on allowing us to show seller concessions in private remarks. Because Georgia MLS is not an NAR MLS, but they are NAR like led kind of thing. Georgia MLS is actually owned by the DeKalb Board of Realtors. So now here's a really interesting thing. If it's in the private remarks, what do we have to do all of a sudden? Read the private remarks, right? Now, me personally, still wishes it was visible, right? Because I think transparency is better. In addition to that, we could put in F-255 closing instructions to the instructions to the closing attorney. That could be listed in the docs section as well. Now, FMLS said, you know what? We don't have anything to do with NAR at all. We're not planning on making any changes. I mean, that was as of March 18th. Now, do I think FMLS will make some changes at some point? I do, just being honest with you. But as of right now, FMLS is like, I ain't got to do nothing. I ain't gonna. And so will FMLS make some changes? We expect that they will make some level of changes. But the good news is that we should still be able to see some level of compensation being offered by the sellers, which will make our life a little bit easier. May we have to jump through a few more steps and have a few more hoops that we have to hop through? Maybe. But, is this the end all be all? No, it isn't. What about interested party contributions, IPCs? And what that means is, like right now, if a seller offers concession, if seller offers a co-op percent, does that come out of closing costs for FHA, VA, or FHA, VA, and conventional loans? No, it's not part of closing costs, right? It's called interested party contribution, and FHA has already come out and said we don't plan on making any changes, and so we're not looking at any kind of changes coming down the road to where that then becomes closing costs. We were concerned that all of a sudden all these commissions was going to be closing costs, and a lot of our buyers need, because you get 6% closing costs on an FHA, 4% on a VA, and 3% on a conventional. And if they have to pay us out of that could be painful, but that's not the case. We're not seeing where that they're not ruling that to go in. Now, NAR is still working on getting clarification from Fannie and Freddie, but right now that's where it's all leaning at the moment. You agree, Sharon? Okay. All right, I got a lender here, so we're hitting her up kind of thing. All right, so as far as like where we're pending, the settlement, we're still the settlement being accepted is still in pending status, right? It hasn't been ratified at this point. We're still waiting to see, because right now, as the rules are, a VA buyer cannot pay agent commission. They're not allowed to in there. And then we do all the GAR forms gets updated twice a year. Normally we have a big one in the beginning of the year. We have a little tweak in mid-year. Mid-year this year, that's going to be off the chain. We're going to have a ton of stuff in there. So just be ready for that, because we know that's going to be coming down the road. And then I am expecting MLS rule changes in Georgia MLS as well in FMLS. But we have 3 months before any of this kind of goes into effect. So we need to start looking at preparing ourselves for the future and what that really means for us. So a recent study out there said of respondents, it would be very stressful to navigate the home buying process without a real estate agent or broker. 91% of our buyers and sellers say yes, right? And then of respondents, a real estate agent or broker is an essential trusted advisor for a home buyer, 87%. Basically 90% of our clients, of folks who buy and sell homes, say their realtor, their real estate agent is a necessary piece of this equation. And I want you to be very proud about the work that we do and how we advocate for our clients. It's very easy when the news is trying to bash us all the time that somehow we're raising home values or we're causing inflation, that kind of stuff. But look, our folks appreciate what we do. And if this is your first home or this is your 15th home, is it probably your most expensive asset?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And do you want to go into that unrepresented? Like, nah, it's okay. I'll wing it. What's the worst that could happen? Lots of bad things could happen. That's the real kicker here, right? So this is another recent study said, how much profit did you make on your recent home? Well, guess who makes the most money on their home when they use what? A realtor. When they use a real estate agent. So with a realtor, without a realtor, that kind of stuff, it costs them more not to use us. We help save our people money out here. So when it comes down to it, we have to understand the value that we bring. It's very important that we can start talking about the value that we bring to a transaction. We are not just door openers, right? That's not our thing, right? So we are local knowledge experts. We have to know our markets, and knowing our markets, that is a like literally invaluable skill, right? Why doesn't Zillow do home buying anymore? They had all the computer algorithms in the world. They had all the software in the world, but they couldn't buy houses in it. Why not? They didn't know the market. That's something that we will always have for us. Understand the pricing and the market value kind of thing, what we bring to the transaction, being able to negotiate, our contracts. All these things are vital reasons why we are going to continue to be an essential part of every transaction moving forward. So I don't know if you know much about Maya Angelou. She's amazing. And she's got this quote: if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. Don't complain. This is a woman who understood about challenges, right? It's, her parents got divorced at 7. She got raped. And then watched her uncles kill the man that did it. She didn't speak for 7 years. For 5 years. She didn't speak for 5 years. And she went on to be one of the greatest playwrights, actresses, poets. I mean, just an amazing story. And, like her quote, I think, speaks so closely to how we need to be operating in real estate right now. So like a lot of these things that are coming down the road, can we change them? No, nope. But if it is something we can change, we're definitely going to change it. If it's something we can't change, then we have to change our attitude. We have to change our mindset. And that's the next step where I really want to go with this. So in here next is a list of 100 things that buyer's agents do for their clients. Is it important that we understand the value that we bring as buyer's agents in here? I'm not saying that listing agents aren't important also. I'm just saying that one thing that's really kind of come out from this whole lawsuit coming on is that there's this kind of mentality out there in the world that a buyer's agent is just like, all they do is open the door and you're pretty much done, right? Is that what we do as buyer's agents? No, it isn't. And do we need to be able to talk about the amazing things that we do? And so we're glad to share this because it starts way before their search even begins, right? And so I'm not going to read you 100 things. That would be kind of a stupid sales meeting here. But, what we do before, what do we do during the search? How about when we make an offer? Once we go under contract, when we go, before we go into closing, after closing, any additional services we do, client communications, market knowledge, technology, and then all of our negotiation skills. Like these are all very valuable qualities. And this is the value that we bring to a real estate transaction. We need to be able to articulate that very clearly with our clients, because now we have to provide value in advance. See, when working with our buyers, we have to be able to start bringing directly to the transaction what value we bring to this transaction. What value do we bring to our buyers? Now that has to be done. When do we have to have this conversation now? In advance, right? Exactly. And so like when you say in advance, like the way that we treat buyers, we have to start treating buyers the same way we do sellers, right? And so when and where will you meet with your buyers? I mean, for a lot of agents right this minute, where do you meet your buyers at?
I've made him at that.
We meet them at the home a lot of times, right? Well, what do the new rules say? And we must have a buyer brokerage agreement signed prior to showing a property. Well, there's a lot of people who do that in advance, but there's also a lot of people like, yeah, I'll see you there. That's one of the big changes. I don't think it's a bad change, right? So we have to start looking at how and when and where do we meet with our buyers prior to showing property. Like that's gonna be a mindset change, especially for, I'm not sure, more seasoned agents that have been doing it for a while. We get set in our own way. We get set in our habits kind of thing. I already see where a lot of our newer agents start off and do that right from the very beginning, but some of us more seasoned, I'm trying to find a nice way to put it, more seasoned folks who are just like, yeah, I'll just see you there kind of thing. I mean, because we've done that for a long time, right? See, we have to show value before we get a buyer brokerage agreement signed, though. That's where our rub is going to come. I mean, we don't want to be like no one wants to be that person that says, if you'll sign this, I'll show you a house. Does that come across as providing any sort of value? No. And so we have to go with our buyers and meet with our buyers, and we have to provide value up front. You do have a few other, like we do have some of these rule changes are real, right? So do you have to say, look, I have to meet with you beforehand, because otherwise I violate the rules of the MLS and they can kick you out of the MLS. What are you gonna do then? Right? So, we're going to see a lot of changes in rules and that kind of stuff. But see, we have to treat our buyers like we do our sellers. Like never would I take a seller and say, you know what? I'm gonna authenticate you this document. And as soon as you sign it, we're good to go. Would I do that with a seller? No, what am I gonna do? Well, I'm gonna set up an appointment. I'm gonna go meet them. I'm gonna go through and talk about all the things that I do to help get their home sold for the most money in the shortest amount of time possible. I'm gonna walk through. I'm gonna offer advice. I'm going to go through and say, this is my marketing process. This is how I'm gonna help to sell your home. And by the way, these are all the services I provide. These are the fees I charge. At that point, what are we going to get signed? A listing agreement, right?
Mhm.
But on buyers in the past, it's been like, all right, we'll catch it later kind of thing. And moving forward, we have to get this around our head right now. That has to change, right? We have to be ready to do buyer presentations prior to showing property. Because what I don't want you to do is just go out and say, my broker says I got to have it. The MLS says I got to do it kind of thing. That's not providing value. That's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt our clients because we want to be able to provide transparency out here kind of thing. And so we got to meet our buyers in advance. We have to show value, stand up for what we're worth, right? We have to say these are the services I provide. These are the fees that I charge. We can't show a property without a buyer brokerage agreement. And so to assist you, we have gone out and we have updated our buyer brokerage agreement. Our buyer's presentation. You can find this in Paperless Pipeline. And so we have a buyer's presentation. But really what I want to really highlight is the most recent changes that we did. We changed one of the sections inside the buyer brokerage agreement. And we talked about 3 key points. First one is that we negotiate for you. Because for our buyers, what do our buyers really want? What's the big question that they have about my commission?
Okay.
Yeah, who pays it, right? Well, I can't negotiate that commission if we're not, unless we have an agreement, right? I can't go and negotiate for myself.
Right.
Our license law prohibits that. I can negotiate on your behalf out there, but I can't negotiate for this unless we have an agreement. So just understand that I'm negotiating for you. You also want to be able to talk about, these are the fees I charge. These are the services I provide. Now, all the things that we just kind of went through in that, and you know, like when you go through your buyer presentation, every one of these, like all these are value propositions. All these are the services and value that you bring to the transaction. You have to say, I do all this and I charge this amount. There is no set fee. There's no set amount. There's no price fixing. There's not a set percentage. There's nothing like that. These are the services I provide. These are the fees that I charge. And we need to be very clear about that. And then we want to be able to say, who can cover the commission? Because at the end of the day, that's what the buyers really want to know, right?
Mhm.
So who can pay the commission?
The buyer himself.
Well, the seller may offer to pay all or part of it. In addition, we could request the seller to pay even before we view a property. Or we can request the seller to pay as part of the offer on the property. It can be paid by the buyer if the buyer chooses to pay that. It could be negotiated into the sales price for the seller to still cover. And depending on the mortgage type, it could even be covered under closing costs.
That form that you would send with your offer.
F-258. Yep. So we have a lot of options, but we need to be able to talk about this with our buyers, right? Because these changes are precipitating the fact that we need to have this conversation right up front. If you wait to have this conversation, you are in a bad place, right? We have to have these buyer brokerage agreements signed in advance, and it has to state clearly what the fees that we charge. And so, like, this is another new change, meaning that we see where for years, it's been, again, this is another one that newer agents are doing a much better job than the old seasoned folks are. Because seasoned folks will just be like, yeah, whatever the seller's offering, that's good. Can we do that moving forward? No, we can't. It has to be done right up front. And that's why we wanted to provide you a buyer presentation so you have the tools that you need to sit down in advance with your client. You can download this off Paperless Pipeline right now. It's in there. Pull it out, put it in a folder, put 2 copies of your buyer brokerage agreement, a list of the vendors from that you want to partner with, and now you have everything you need to sit down and go over with a buyer prior to showing. Now you've got 3 months to kind of hone your skills, get things ready to go. Because right now, can we still show a property?
Yes.
Like right now, has anything changed at all in the state of Georgia? No, nothing has. But is it coming? Would you like to go ahead and get those skills ready now, or you just want to wait for it to hit you like a Mack truck in 3 months? I know what I prefer, right? Now, do we steer folks away from properties that don't have a commission? I first of all, I never have. And I don't feel like we really do, right? But a couple of things I want to make sure that we point out. Right now, 32% of all buyers are first-time buyers. Why is that an important thing that you think I want? Why do you think I'm showing you that a third of our buyers are first-time buyers?
Haven't had experience.
Well, but how much cash do our first-time buyers have to bring into a transaction? Not a lot, all right? How about veterans? What percentage of our buyers are VA loans? 18%. So 33 and 18, what is that? So over 50% of our buyers are veteran and first-time buyers. Because what we have to understand is it steering or is it affordability? All right, because I'm not a person that would ever steer. And I don't know realtors that steer. It becomes an affordability issue, and we have to be able to express this clearly, right? So I've never steered clients towards a higher commission property. It's about what's best for them. It's not about what's best for me. However, I work hard for what I do. These are the services I provide. These are fees I charge, right? We put that all out there. Right now, our VA buyers can't pay a commission. They physically can't pay a commission. So can my VA buyer afford to buy a home where the seller doesn't pay for it? Because does a VA buyer have a contractual obligation to me? Yeah, the VA buyer the VA buyer has to be in a, we must have a buyer brokerage agreement prior to showing. So they're gonna have an agreement with me. And so can they buy a home where the seller doesn't offer to pay as it stands right now? No, they can't afford to do that. So right now, my VA, my first time buyers account for over half of my transactions. And then for those other folks, do they want to pay up front? Y'all have any buyers like, you know what, I'm glad to pay right up front. I mean, there are some, but I mean, it's not, you know, it's definitely not a majority out there. We have to have a buyer brokerage agreement prior to showing the property. The buyer and the agent are both contractually bound to that agreement now. I mean, I want you to see how this is a protection for us as well as for our clients. Now we have a lot of transparency right up front. Our buyer has a lot of expenses in there, and now one of those expenses may be our commission, correct? Yep. And so if a co-op is not offered, can my buyer afford to buy this home? So am I steering somebody away? I mean, we've had buyers say, if they're not going to pay, if they're not going to cover the co-op, I don't want to look at that house. Right. And so what I want you to, we have to be very clear, and we also have to be able to articulate the fact, I'm never going to steer somebody from a property that has zero co-op. Right. But my buyer has to be able to afford that home. And if they can't afford, or they don't have the ability to pay my commission, they have a contractual obligation to pay me. These are the services I provide. These are the fees that I charge, right? We're putting that right out front. And so if Mr. and Mr. Seller doesn't offer a co-op, does that mean that my buyer can buy now? Did I steer this client away from that seller that's not offering a co-op? I want you, I mean, I hope that this kind of sets in, because this is a very clear thing. There's a lot of people out there in the world that are accusing us of steering. You know, they're like, oh, the realtors are still going to steer people away. I'm not going to steer anyone away. But what do my buyers have to be able to do? They have to be able to afford it. I mean, we already looked at how important having representation is. Our buyers and our sellers are going to have representation. And by the way, this is the way it's been done. When that seller bought that home, who paid the commission then probably? Yeah, same kind of thing. So what I want you to understand is that this is not about us steering anybody away from a zero or a lower commission co-op. My buyers can't afford it in a lot of cases. It becomes a negotiation point, but we have to be able to talk about this like adults kind of thing, instead of just shoving our head in the sand and acting like we don't need to address this. This is an affordability issue, not a steering issue. And when you communicate that this way, it's the right way to come across. Like I'm not trying to make somebody pay more. I'm not trying to stick it to anybody. I'm not trying to avoid properties that have no co-op. Even if a property has zero co-op commission, are we going to if we submit an offer, are we going to submit that offer and ask for the seller to pay? Yeah, we are. And if they say no, what's my buyer going to do?
Make a decision.
Well, then they have to make a decision. Like I can't afford to buy the home then. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep looking. Right? It's all done before they do any inspections, before they do any appraisals, that kind of stuff. All that's going to be done right up front. So we have to be able to clearly communicate. This is an affordability issue for our buyers. Does that make sense? So now with our sellers, we have a very similar situation here. We still have to make sure that we are offering a value proposition with our sellers. But now with our sellers, are you going to recommend that a co-op commission is offered? Is it about steering again? No, but like we have to understand that, you know, in the past, it was just kind of a given. We're seeing where a lot of sellers now are asking us, do I have to, I mean, and I understand, if I was selling and I didn't have to pay a buyer's agent commission, I don't want to. Does anybody want to pay money they don't think they have to? No, they don't. But as listing agents, we have to start looking at some things a little bit differently. Now, all of a sudden, we're starting to see where listing agents are starting to kind of value buyer's agents. Because in the past, listing agents, buyer's agents and listing agents, even though we're on the opposite sides, it's kind of like, yeah, no big deal. Like sometimes listing agents don't give buyer's agents a lot of respect, if you know what I mean. Well, all of a sudden, like now the listing agents, the selling agents have to start looking at some things a little bit differently. We have to start talking about that concessions going forward. Are we going to offer it? And if we don't offer it, are you going to prepare your clients that it's probably going to be requested anyway? Yes, you need to make sure. So like when you're doing your net to seller in there, you want to do a net to seller and not have a buyer co-op included in there? Well, we did. I mean, we looked at it earlier from the buyer side, but from the seller side, 18% of our buyers are VA, 33% are first-time buyers. Over half of our buyers are, can't afford. So would you like, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, do you want half the buyers in our market not to consider your property? Well, no, I don't want that. Well, if you do, now we're only dealing with half the market. Are we going to reduce our price so that we become more appealing? Right? Because now you're dealing with half the market. Like if you eliminate that, it's probably even more than half the market. I'm just saying just VA and our FHA buyers are going to count for, our first-time buyers are going to count for over half of our buyer pool right now. And then there's a lot of other folks that don't want to pay up front or can't, in addition to our first-time buyers. Are you ready to have that conversation with our sellers? Because sellers are seeing these news headlines for the first time ever. 6% is negotiable. No, you don't have to pay buyer's agents anymore. The buyers pay themselves. And a lot of sellers just don't understand. They may say, well, why can't the buyer just pay? We have to be ready to explain these things to our sellers out here. So in addition to that, let's say that you are, as a listing agent, are you willing to do the buyer's agent job for free? Well, I mean, like you go in, you meet with your clients, you go, these are the services I provide, these are the fees I charge. And let's say that you're going to do it for 2.5%, 3%, whatever, doesn't matter. That's what I'm going to do. But what happens when an unrepresented buyer comes? Are you going to do that for free? No, I mean, I don't recommend doing it. In addition to that, like you can represent the seller as a client, you can represent the buyer as a customer, but does that come free? Are you doing that for nothing? No. What are you going to charge for that? Right? Because everything's done up front. We have to be ready for that. And then are you ready for the liability that comes with that? We'd be lying if we didn't say that there is going to be increased liability. Because, in the light of this, we are going to see some, will we see some folks who just try and go straight to the buyer's agent? Will we have some sellers who say, no, I'm only paying you, and some agents who are going to do both? Well, what happens when you get a seller that says, all right, if you're going to represent the buyer, I don't want them to do a home inspection. I mean, who's your client? The seller. So are you going to recommend a home inspection to your buyer? I mean, like you see the moral dilemma here, right? The seller, your client said, please don't recommend a home inspection. Now, I think it's unethical, right? But what happens when a seller says that? They're your client. Are you going to, I personally would be like, no, I can't recommend what's not right out there. But all I'm saying is, see now, and what happens when somebody, let's say you represent both sides of the transaction, and that buyer comes back and said, you didn't tell me to get a radon inspection, and we found radon in this house, and you represented the seller, and you didn't do anything for me. You didn't have my best interest in mind. You didn't tell me to get a radon, and now my child has lung cancer. You ready for that liability? Well, I mean, we have to be ready that right now, a lot of us do represent a We can represent both sides of the transaction, but if we move forward, we have to be ready to accept that kind of liability. You know, will you offer a reduced commission if you work both sides? Can you do that? You can, but all these, like, when does this negotiation have to happen? Right up front, right? And so our conversation with our sellers have to change. Our sellers already, right now, if you're going on listing appointments, your sellers are asking you, do I have to pay a buyer's agent commission right now? They're going to ask you that going forward. And do they have to?
No.
No, they've never had to in Georgia, right? At least not as far as I remember. Yes, ma'am.
They don't, you work it up as agent, or you just keep going right along.
Well, at this point, it's about how you choose to operate your business, right? So if you accept a listing and they're not offering any buyer co-op, right? What are you going to do when an unrepresented buyer comes? Are you going to refer that out? You're going to refer that out too, because no one's going to pay them. So are you prepared to just be a transactional person and just fill all that information out for free? Because your seller's going to expect that. That's what I mean. You have to have this kind of conversation. Or are you going to say, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, even if we don't offer one, are the buyers going to request it anyway?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, they will. I mean, it's just because we can, the buyers and once we have a buyer brokerage agreement, I can send the F-250 off beforehand, asking if they're willing to pay a commission, and if so, I'll show you property. Or I can write an offer and put it in there, or I can include it in closing costs, or I can, like we have a lot of options in there. But are we doing our sellers any justice if we don't clearly communicate that they're still going to be requested to pay this, that our buyers need it? Right? So at the end of the day, we are moving a lot of things from one box to another. There are some changes in how we operate, right? We have to be ready for that. We are also got a brand new listing presentation coming out for you. So we have the buyer's presentation. The listing presentation I'm finishing right now. I tried to have it ready for the sales meeting today, but I was like, I gotta go to bed. So I couldn't get it done in time. That's our rough outline right now. We are almost there. I want to make sure that it positions us to be able to have a knowledgeable, experienced conversation with our sellers to be able to clearly articulate what's going on in our marketplace. And so right now, it's not as clear as it needs to be. I need, just like we reworked the buyer's presentation to be able to talk about these are our options. We need to be able to put that forward to our sellers as well. This should be out in the next week for you, to where we can start having these conversations. Actually, we need this one right now because we already have sellers asking us, do we have to pay right now? So this will be coming out in the next week or so. And I wanted to give you, again, a format so that you're prepared to have these conversations. I mean, like if you're just winging it, going on these listing appointments, it's really hard to provide value when you wing it on a listing appointment. It's really, you miss things, you forget things. That's why we want you to have a listing presentation. You go in with 2 copies of your listing agreement, that kind of thing moving forward. And now you have what you need to provide value in advance and also explain what's really going on in the marketplace. Am I making sense? Y'all like it? Okay, good. All right. So this is a fairly recent study of realtors, and said, how do you believe the settlement will affect the real estate market overall? How do you think real estate folks are feeling right now?
Confused.
Anxious, bad, confused, frustrated, angry. I've seen it all out there, right? For those of us that have been in the business for a long time, but the only constant that we have is change, right? Especially in the real estate world, right? Something's always changing in here, but I can promise you that you can decide what your outcome will be. If you say, you know what, these changes are going to destroy my business. These changes these are going to be fundamental changes. Real estate will never be the same. This is, I may as well quit. What should you do? Quit. You just decided that this is done for you. I don't see all these changes as bad. I really like the transparency side of things moving forward. I know it sounds weird, but getting buyer brokerage agreements signed in advance, that's smart. It offers protections for our clients. It offers protections for our agents. It also lets us provide value in advance. What happens if somebody doesn't want to meet with you? Bye, Felicia. Right? You know, like seriously, like how often do we end up chasing somebody that doesn't want to work with us? I see where there's times we will drag a deadbeat client down the road like an old boat anchor, right? I'm just being straight up. And I'm not trying to knock anybody or anything like that, but seriously, sometimes we are trying to drag people along. Look, if you don't want to work with me, I got nothing but love for you. I'm not the right agent for you. Right? So if you decide that these changes are going to hurt you, they will. If you also decide that, you know what, this is a new way of doing business, a better way of doing business, and I can really thrive when all these other people are bitching and moaning and complaining and focusing on the negative and that kind of stuff, and you aren't, who's going to thrive in this environment? Right? That's what I want you to understand, that there is a great opportunity for folks, not just to get by, but to explode, to truly thrive in their business right now. Now, these folks down here, they're like, if you feel this is very negative, it's going to hurt you. It's absolutely going to hurt you. We're not taking that approach, right? We don't feel this is going to hurt us. Matter of fact, we're looking at the different systems and ways that we can work through this so that we come out on the other side stronger and better than before. And that's my goal. That's my hope. That's my prayer for you. Make sense? Yeah.
It's all the sense in the world. That's how I'm looking at it. 'Cause I'm a new agent, so like I said, that I didn't look at it like that. I looked at it like I got more of it.
Yep. Yeah, that's the thing. Will we have some people that have decided that real estate's not for them anymore? Sure will. Is that bad for y'all? No, that's what I'm saying. No, exactly. Kind of thing. Now, in addition, all that was, we definitely needed to have a pretty in-depth deep dive into what's going on with the whole NAR settlement, that kind of stuff. But we also have to be knowledge brokers when it comes to our market information, knowing what's really on. And so we have to make sure that we have knowledge of what the market is truly doing, and not just like ever since the lawsuit announcement has come out, what do you think the general mood in the real estate world is? Yeah. Well, like we're angry, we're kicking dirt and doing things, and but we have to look at what's really happening in our marketplace. And so I do want to share with you, let's look at our numbers here, what's really going on. So new listings. What's going on with new listings? New listings are up. New listings are up big. They've been up all year long. The whole January, February, March, boom. New listings are up. We're seeing inventory increase. Is that good or bad? We haven't had enough inventory for years. We're finally moving up to where more inventory that's a really good thing. Now, when we have more new listings, that means that overall total inventory is also up. Last month, total inventory is up 16%. Is that good or bad? Especially for who? Buyers, right? We have, like summer of 2021, we couldn't even find a house, right? So this is a blessing. I'm really glad to see it do. Now, does that mean that all of a sudden real estate's going all crazy haywire? No. Our inventory is increasing. It's increasing all of it, kind of thing. But we are still well below where we were pre-pandemic, right? We aren't anywhere near there yet. Look at the total number of listings we had in 2017. 1,100. I'm sorry, 1,100,000, 1,050,000, 1,100,000, 900,000. We have 600,000 total listings right now. So is it getting better? Yes. Have we moved to a place where suddenly it's a buyer's market and we're going to see prices fall? No, but this is a good sign, right? And so we have to be able to know what's really happening in the market, how that's going to impact us out here. So we are seeing rising inventory. It's not gone crazy. It's nothing haywire, but we are sure glad to see it, especially moving into our spring and summer buying season. This is the right time to see this. Overall in Georgia, year over year, we're running right at 15% up. Total inventory this year versus last year. And you can see that, is it just Georgia? No, most of the country's that way. Not everywhere, but here in Georgia, we sure are. How about pending sales? What's going on in pending sales? Pending sales is down. Yep. And not only pending sales, but our closed sales is also down about 5%. We're not where we want to be on, but what's driving this?
Interest.
Interest rates. Bingo, right? This is what's going on with our demand based on our rate environment right now. And so we see where right now demand is somewhat limited. When we're still in the limited area. So until rates come down, that's really what we're looking at seeing demand increase on there. The Fed just met, and when they did, they decided not to lower the federal funds rate. Now, the federal funds rate does not exactly tie directly to mortgage rates, but it does indirectly, because it affects overall borrowing, lending. It really will affect the 10-year treasury, and that's what drives mortgage rates on here. So they decided to hold steady. They are still planning on 3 reductions this year on reducing the federal funds rate. What's going to happen when they start reducing those federal funds rate? We should start seeing a little bit of softening in there, right? And so we're seeing a little bit of drops. But the other good news we have right now is here in the South, the average qualifying income is higher than the average. The average income is higher than the average qualifying income. Now, it's not that case in every single area, but here in the South, our average buyer makes enough to cover that. And that's a good thing for us to be. Is there a lot left over for commissions? No, y'all follow me here. But this is what we're looking at mortgage rates moving forward here. And so Fannie Mae, Mortgage Bankers Association, National Association of Realtors, you can see that they're looking at this thing moving down in the lower 6s as we move across later into this year. So I'm not sure we're going to get under 5 this year, but we are definitely we're going to be moving that way. And right now, everything is held up based on inflation, right? The Fed won't lower interest rates until they see inflation drop below 3. And so I think we were at 3.8 last month, that kind of stuff. So it's down from the 8s and the 7s where it was. When we saw inflation spike, and then it hit that 3 to 4% range. It's just sitting there. And so they're trying to hold steady to see if they can't force that inflation rate down closer to 2. And so when that happens, now, the reason I want to talk about this just briefly is what happens when interest rates go down? What does that do to demand? Demand's going to go up. And when demand goes up, what's going to happen to prices? Prices are going to go up. And so you're going to have some people and we have buyers right now. Should I buy now or should I wait for rates to come down? Well, I mean, we have to be honest about what's really going on. And that's why I want to show you this, because, that canned realtor agent in you wants to say, well, now's the right time to buy. But honestly, now's the right time to buy, because yes, interest rates may come down 0.5 point, but how much has property appreciated over the last 3 years here in Georgia? 54%. So if you want to wait on this home, I could just sell it to you later next year for another 5 or 6% more. All right. So I'm not trying to be that stereotypical realtor, hey, what could you get your house today kind of thing. But we have to be honest, right? If interest rates come down, what's happening to prices? They are. And are our prices going down already? No, we are seeing where they are much more moderating. We're actually really pleased. And I'm kind of giving myself a preface here kind of thing. So the other thing here is that one area where I'd like to kind of guide you is our younger buyers are less sensitive to mortgage rates.
They're not used to it.
Well, I mean, some of our boomers have 3% rates. They're like, I'll just wait till they get back down to 3 again. They're never going to 3 again. Okay. I mean, take advantage of the fact that you got it, but they're not going back to 3s again. So our millennials and our Gen Z buyers are much more likely to jump in at higher rates. So focus on your younger buyers if you, in order, I mean, right now, that's a good thing to look at. Overall, days on market, 51 days. Still running right about the same where we have been for the last couple of years. How about months of standing inventory? We are sitting on 3.3 months of standing inventory. Now that is up from where it was because this is tied directly to what? New listings, right? So we have more inventory on hand. And so if we have more inventory in hand, how many? So we're sitting on, let's just say 3.5 months of standing inventory. How many months of standing inventory do we need to have a balanced market? 6. We need 6 months of standing inventory. So are we there yet? Are we moving in the right direction? Yes, we're moving towards a more balanced market. We've been moving towards a more balanced market for the last year and a half. And it's just a nice, steady, slow, steady progression moving forward. So we're very pleased to kind of see that moving forward. Because sale, overall sales price, still this past month, up 7.5%. What do you notice this year on sales price every month in Georgia MLS? Substantially over last year. Are prices falling? No. So again, buy this house today, or you can pay more for it later in the year if you want. But and I don't look at like 7.5%. That's not going to be a realistic number probably year to date. This is kind of what the home price forecast is from all the big brain people out there, and they're looking at about 3.2% property value appreciation this year. And is that good? That's healthy. That's really, really healthy. Look, we had several years in the 17s and 13s and 15s kind of thing. That's why we have 50% appreciation over the last 3 years. If we keep appreciating at that rate, what's going to happen? We're going to have a bubble. So if you look over the last 50 years on property value appreciation, we average 4.4% a year for the last 50 years. Is how much property appreciates every single year for the last 50 years. Some years it appreciates more, some years it less, but overall, it averages about 4.4% a year. So if we grow property values this year by 3.2%, is that bad? No, it's actually very healthy for us because we've been hot and heavy on property value appreciation. It's made affordability really, really a lot more of a challenging. We are seeing rates, wages increase, but not at the same rate. So as long as we are still growing value, it's a very healthy, safe place for us to be in the marketplace. Now, there's a recent article out here about bank rate, and they're like roughly 60% of U.S. adults have held off making major purchases because of student debt. Y'all know folks who are waiting because they have too much student loans?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, student loan is a big, big deal out there. However, right now, 38% of your first-time buyer have student loans. And the average buyer has $30,000 in loans.
So.
No, what I want you to understand is, like just this past week, it came out like, I keep hearing this. I can't buy, I have student loans. I can't buy, I have student loans. Can somebody buy and have a student loan?
That little bit done.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know what you mean by $30,000 ain't much, but okay, that's still a lot of money. Okay. But like we are seeing more and more, like there's this idea with a lot of our first time buyers that I have to pay off student debt before I can buy. And is that really the case, Sharon?
No.
No. Okay. So we got to understand that that's something that we can do. So what can we do for those? Because right now, first time buyers are increasing. We know that they're hot and heavy in our marketplace. They're also the least prone to care, or not, maybe care is the wrong word, but interest rates don't impact them to the same level as far as their overall interest in buying in there. So what's something that we can do to take advantage of that? How about 100% FHA loans? That's something. So like Sharon, come here real quick. Talk to us real fast about it. Now, for some of you guys, I know some of the other offices have your lenders in-house. Talk to them as well kind of thing. We're just gonna go over the 100% FHA program real quick because we are seeing where the number and volume of FHA loans being utilized is at one of its highest levels right now in a long time. Wouldn't you say, Sharon?
Yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
because the debt to income ratios will go higher than on the conventional. Because the conventional is only gonna get 30, 40, basically 40. You might get some at 50, but
You gotta come on this side, because here's where the mic is.
very few. This loan here, the maximum DTI on the back end is 50. And when I say DTI, I'm at debt divided into your income. You got a housing debt and you got a back end debt, which is your debt into your income. So it can't exceed 50%, which is generous, actually. Straight up FHA underwriting, we do it in-house and we close them in 30 days. You don't have to wait 60 days to eat on this.
Now, let's just talk about the like the fine print here. There is a second mortgage on this, right?
There is.
Explain that.
Okay, the second mortgage is that it's amortized over 10 years. There's no prepayment penalty. And you're able to pay it off anytime you want to. I mean, you're actually your 3.5% they're giving you for the down payment assistance. You're actually paying it back. So it can be paid off anytime, but usually it runs around $120 a month, depending on the loan amount. There's no max loan amounts. There's no max income. There's no max money in the bank. I've never seen anything like, I mean, for down payment assistance, it's crazy. 600 mid score.
So again, we have a lot of buyers that have different challenges right now. We know that the commissions and all the other, everything we've been talking about is definitely vital issues, but we also have a lot of programs out there if you're in the know. And so one that we've been seeing that is just like going gangbusters, I guess is a good way to put it, is 100% FHA, where they can get 100% financing. It isn't really a down payment program because they are still getting the whole, they're getting the whole loan amount, but it covers that 3.5% is basically a second mortgage that they can put on there. But what's the challenge for so many of our home buyers? How much money do I got to bring to closing, right? And so how much money do they got to bring for this? What's the lowest you've done on one of these as far as how much cash they had to bring to closing?
Maybe 2, depending on what the seller will pay, but maybe 2,000 or 3,000.
Yeah.
Because you've got, no, I say that's not true because no, because you get 3.5%.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe 2,000 or 3,000, maybe 4, depending on how much the loan is.
I mean, go ahead.
Can you answer about the student loan thing? Cause someone asked me about it this weekend and I was telling them, if they're in forbearance, you're still gonna make them calculate a portion of it.
I have to. If it's
All right.
forbearance or either deferred.
The question is, how does student loan work? Would you explain to everybody kind of
Yeah.
thing just about student?
Yeah,
loans
the
real quick?
student loans, how they're figured is they take the total balance of what the student loans are on the credit report, and we'll take a 0.50%. So in other words, on that 30,000, your payment a month to add it to the debt to income ratios would be 150. So that's nothing. But you do still have to
You
calculate.
still have to
in-
calculate.
Yeah,
$100,000
that's
for the student loan.
No, 30,000.
30. 30. So if you've got just 30,000, take 0.50% and it's $150 a month.
Well, and the Biden administration just a couple of days ago talked about some more student debt relief out there. I don't know how that's all going to work out, but it didn't all go through the last time. I'm not sure how it's going to go, but the whole thing is that we have clients who are going to be asking us questions, being able to answer these kind of questions. That puts you into that advisor guidance role kind of thing. Having programs where we can offer, like the fact that we could say, for $3,000 or $4,000, you can buy a home. It costs more than that to rent a place, kind of thing. And so I find that is a really nice option out there.
Now, honestly, if you're getting 6%, if you're able to negotiate, get 6% and seller pay closing costs. I mean, they've gotten their earnest money back for it. So it doesn't have to be either.
Yeah. So I really like this program. We're seeing this program being used a lot more. So seriously, consider about talking to them and then partner up with a lender that you trust. So.
Well, I think we're the only people that do these, so I don't know if anybody else does.
Oh, I thought there was others. So.
I've already done it.
So,
Yeah.
that's fine.
No, I've seen New American, I've seen some other guys doing it, so, yep. All right,
So when you're writing stuff on an FHA, exhibit, you're writing it out with the person second.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. All right, now I want to talk about another elephant in the room. Is it cheaper to rent or to buy right now? It's cheaper to rent. It's cheaper to rent. Now, just on a straight up monthly payment, it is cheaper to rent. No matter of fact, Atlanta is one of the markets where rents have dropped the most. Because, I mean, like, they'll drive around. What do they build? What have they been building on every street corner as well? There's apartments everywhere, right? And so all that apartment construction has come to a screeching halt now. Because they've overbuilt. And now we're starting to see where apartment rents are going down. So it is cheaper right now to rent than it is to buy at the moment. Does that mean that our folks should not worry about buying? It's just gonna be a better deal for them to rent. Well, we have to be advocates for homeownership. We have to talk about the power of homeownership. And even though rent may be cheaper today, what, you know, like, and you can say, well, interest rates are high. Well, what's the interest rate on an apartment? It's 100% interest on a loan. I mean, you know, if you're renting a place, it's 100% interest, right? I mean, basically, you're not getting any of that back.
Here's why I don't like the way they use the word steering. Transparency in education is different from steering, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm steering someone to homeownership and giving them benefits, right? So are we using the word steering in this case? Like-
No, I'm not using the word steer, but I want them to understand, like, where does wealth in the United States come from? Wealth comes up in home ownership. So like whether I own one house or 10 houses, where's my wealth coming from? Home ownership. And for so many people, like I really appreciate my renters. I truly do. I try and you know, I offer you know, my rental properties are good rental properties. They're well maintained, but guess what they do for me? They make me money, right? And so like wealth in the United States is tied up in homeownership. So either it's going to be who's making the money on those apartments? Those investors are, right? So we have to understand a couple of things. That, you know, despite market conditions, that kind of stuff, despite that it being cheaper to rent, folks still want to own. The number one reason why people want to own a home is because they want it. I know it's a terrible reason, but that's just that's the truth, right? People want to own their own home. They understand that. We also have to be the one that explains the power of home ownership and why it's so important they do. Wealth is definitely a big one. Like I mean, it's up here on the slide, but like, if you just took all the renters in the United States and divided out their net worth, what's a renter worth in the United States? $10,000. You take all the property owners in the United States and divide them out. What's the average homeowner worth? Almost $400,000. Which group would you rather be part of? I mean, it's not really rocket science here, right? I mean, it's not even close. 10,000 versus 400,000 is not even in the same ballpark, right? Like if you want to change someone's life, help them be a homeowner. If you want to change a community, help people be homeowners. Like it changes the world out there. So, and if you look at just property value appreciation, just appreciation, right? And if all we did was take on that same value appreciation study we saw, and said, you know what, if I bought a $400,000 home this year and homes just appreciate at that 3.2% rate over the next 5 years, how much is that home going to be worth by 2029? $483,000. So that means I'm going to get $83,000 in equity. If I take away my cost of buying, that means that I netted out $66,000 in equity. That's just equity. That's not even counting how much of that home, how much of that mortgage may I have paid off. Right? We have to be the ones who are the advocates for home ownership. We have to be able to talk about this. Right now, there's so much stuff going on in our industry that it's very easy to lose sight of the fact that we are the advocates for homeownership. We need to be able to talk about the power of homeownership, where wealth comes from. Yes, it's cheaper to rent. I mean, don't lie, right? No, it's cheaper to buy. No, it isn't. It's not cheaper, but is it worth it? Yeah, because in 5 years, how much, what's your rent gonna be in 5 years? How much equity are you gonna have out of that rental? Zero, right? So we have to be the ones who are clearly communicating this. Don't lose sight of this. These are the things that makes us really, really special. This is why the world needs us, is because like we have a higher calling here than just looking at pretty houses and cashing checks, right? And it's important that we talk about the really important things that we do in our communities. So now, every Monday morning, we are doing a new accountability. And some of y'all have been joining us, and if you haven't, I'm going to encourage you to do that. Every Monday morning at 9, we do this thing called Real Estate Backstory, where we talk about what's kind of coming, the comings, the goings, the things happening in the real estate market. And then at 9:30, we are starting accountability. And in our accountability, we are rolling out what we call our top 50 program. And our top 50 program, that's just what we're doing to help. The basic premise is, if you have 50 people out there that are always talking about you and that are going to send you 50 referrals a year, this is a program to help grow that. In addition to that, we also go through one lead generation tip every Monday morning. We go through a KV core tip every Monday morning. We role play, and then we go through and we do accountability. Now, accountability is one of those things that nobody likes. We all say we like it, but we don't really like it. No one likes to have to answer to anybody else. But it's one of those things that can help you grow your business and just get out and start changing how you do things. So many of us got into real estate because we didn't want to have a schedule. I didn't want to have a real job. I wanted to be able to just come and go as I please, right? And I know that, like, does anybody want to get up with me Monday morning? No, you don't. But guess what? Well, guess what's going to happen if you get up with me on Monday mornings, do this with us, and start getting into a better routine? What's going to happen to your business? It's going to grow, right? I mean, for us, we grow when you grow, right? I don't grow without you. So we're only going to grow based on how successful you're being. And so we're here to assist you in that. So doing the things like the buyer's presentations, listing presentations, please come in, take advantage of accountability. We're here to help you grow your business. Please take advantage of us. I know it sounds really weird. I didn't mean it like in a weird, creepy way, but I want you like take advantage of what we're putting out there. Like these things are here to help you grow your business. So please take advantage of them. So now, congratulations to all of our top producers last month, kind of thing. So Valencia Hodge and Edith Wattis were here, but I'm going to, at this point, we're going to go into the local sales meeting for each office individually.
We've got some questions.
Oh, we have
I want
questions.
Sharon to address the student loan and how it looks from the lender's perspective.
Okay, so we have a request for Sharon to share what it looks like from
From the lender's perspective.
like, do you hate student loans? Do
No,
they kill your deals?
sometimes.
Okay, they can, because it throws off what? If
Well,
you've
debt
got-
income
right.
ratio. Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how much debt they've got in addition to the student debt. I mean, if you've got 30,000 in student debt, you've got $1,000 a month car payment.
Yep.
And you got, and you're only making $4,200 a month and you've got 3 or 4 credit cards, then it's gonna definitely affect it because you're not gonna be able to get it for free.
Well, but what about if I've not been paying on my student loans?
It doesn't matter if they're on the credit report, if they're either forbearance or if they're in deferment. You still have to count that 0.5%.
Well, I understand you gotta count it, but if I ain't been paying,
Well, if you ain't been paying, you're not gonna get a loan because you're not gonna get past your cable.
okay, so let's just say that maybe I got some loans I ain't been paying on. How long is it gonna take me to get to where I could get a mortgage?
A year from the last that late,
Really?
1 year from the last late,
And you got sting. I gotta wait a year?
1 year.
What if I get a forbearance next week?
Well, forbearance it's not gonna hurt you if you just don't pay the loan. If you're late paying it, it's gonna go into collections.
Well, I mean, but if I haven't been paying for a year, can I go work out something with them?
You can,
And I still have to wait a year?
yes.
Okay,
Because it's a federal debt.
I'm with you, but these are questions that folks have, because sometimes like, well, I started paying my loan. Can I go get a mortgage?
When was the last
In
time?
11 months you can. Yeah.
They don't want to see any lights on the mortgages, period.
Yeah.
So what is something,
If they what,
if they have been late, what do they do?
they'll have to wait a year.
Don't be late again.
Yeah, don't be late again.
Yeah. It's a big deal, right? I mean, the credit matters, so.
Credit cards, I think they'll do 1 times 30, you know, on FHA. I'm not sure about conventional, but on FHA, I know it's 1 times 30. But as far as mortgages, yeah, it's not good. They have a rent.
All right, other questions, Nancy?
No, Ming wants to know if we can put Laura on the spot for a success story for,
Nah, but they can there. I'm not doing it overall, so. All right, we're gonna go to our local meeting now, so thank you guys very, very much, and I love y'all, so. All right.
Thank you.